Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are currently trying to crash this probe into Joule a bit. I say crash, that's not exactly how Joule works, but we're going to bring this on into the atmosphere here, and hopefully, very soon, we're not going to be coming back out. So we need to continue to warp forward here for a bit, and we'll be entering the atmosphere here shortly. There we go. Now we're in the atmosphere. Fantastic. So we're going to start shedding some apoapsis speed, of course. We don't really care about this inclination for the moment. But let's bring this right on in. We are, of course, out of ablation for our heat shield. That doesn't seem to have mattered, which is fascinating. I guess that's only for, like, removing heat from the heat shield, and we haven't had an issue with heat thus far. But we are actually slowing down as we approach the periapsis here, so there's a lot of drag going on. No doubt about that. But we're doing multiple aerobrake passes here. And I think at this point, I was going to say physics warp. With this going on, yeah, we'll physics warp. What could possibly go wrong? Remember, all we needed to do was enter the atmosphere, and we completed that several re-entries ago. We have already exceeded the contract, so it's fine. Completely and totally fine. We're still about 20 seconds away from periapsis, and we're decelerating pretty dramatically here. We can definitely see that. We've passed the periapsis now, and we are heading up to the apoapsis. Time for that is decreasing substantially. So that's all good. We can see that our apoapsis is dropping by roughly half per pass. So that's not bad. In fact, it's going to be slowing a little bit more each time, right? Because our periapsis height is dropping. So that's fine. That is completely fine. We're going to be exiting the atmosphere here and doing another aerobrake pass. Again, we could use some of this fuel to deal with that, but I don't want to. Okay, so we are now out of the atmosphere, and we'll go ahead and warp right on around to, I don't know, maybe here. Let's see what that ends up looking like. How are we doing on power? Oh, we've got plenty. Excellent. Okay, so let's warp on into the atmosphere. And a little faster. There we go. Beautiful. So now we are going to be reducing our periapsis further. We may hit 170 kilometers this pass. Do we think that we're going to be coming back out? We have quite a lot of speed yet. We'll see. That's a hard we'll see. Excellent. I'm not sure if this will be the last one or the second to last one, but it'll be one of those. We're down below 2,000 kilometers at this point, and we're not yet to... Actually, time to periapsis is increasing. We are not coming out of this. Beautiful. That's what we want to see. Okay, so no more aerobrake passes. Looks good. And let's just slow down as much as we can. We're still at 5,700 meters per second. It's very speedy, no doubt about that. This is a very energetic entry. But so far, all seems good. So far, anyway. The antenna was broken by aero forces. I'm not shocked about that, and now we're kind of losing attitude because actually we do still have probe control. We should come out of physics warp. I'm a little surprised that we have probe control, but I mean, we do have decent connections through our communications satellites that we put up in the system. So that seems reasonably fine. We'll hold our attitude here as long as we can. How are we doing on power? We've got more than enough power. Yep, we entered suborbital spaceflight and atmospheric flight. Explore Joule completed. Fantastic. As expected. So we're now traveling at about 3,500 meters per second and continuing to decelerate dramatically. Now 3,200. 3,100, and we're probably at the point now where we can go back into physics warp. We're going to be kind of flopping around here a little, but that should be okay, realistically. Yeah, it seems fine. Okay, we can now actually send out the parachutes. We're still 132 kilometers up, and we're down to 800 meters per second. The parachutes are probably unnecessary, and in order to make this go a little bit faster, we're just going to fall without them for the time being. Beautiful. We're now flying low over Joule, traveling at about 400 meters per second. We're 100 kilometers up still. That's a ways. We can see our delta V just dropping because this engine is vacuum optimized. No shockers, we don't actually need this fuel. So that's all fine. We're still 80 kilometers up and falling at about 200 meters per second. Should we think about jettisoning our heat shield? We could. That would reduce our drag. I'm concerned about it blowing back into us, though, and destroying bits of the probe. I would prefer not to have that happen. So I think for the time being, we're just going to continue to drop here. Our horizontal speed is exceptionally low. And we're going to get to the point, I think, where our vertical speed is going to reach a terminal velocity. We're still a bit above that terminal velocity. At least for this altitude. That velocity will always be changing based on the density of the atmosphere, right? But we are now about 40 kilometers up. So that's looking good. This will, of course, be destroyed. We know this for a fact. And that's fine. That's completely okay. I'm actually slightly shocked that we have 73% signal strength without our antenna. I mean, we have a built-in antenna on our remote guidance unit, but I would have expected this signal to be a little bit worse than it actually ended up being. We've got about 25 more kilometers to fall here. And we'll put out our parachutes somewhere around like 3 kilometers up. Something like that. I just want to fall as far as we can without the parachutes to make this go just that little bit faster. We are now 15 kilometers up. I'm falling at about 100 meters per second. Cool. 12 kilometers up. Continuing to decelerate here. 10 kilometers up. 8. Okay, we're now 6 kilometers up. It's starting to get darker as the sun's rays have a harder and harder time penetrating the gaseous clouds of Joule, which is to be expected. We're now 3 kilometers up, and let's go ahead and send out our parachutes. Beautiful. Continuing to plummet here, we are currently 1,500 meters up from the quote-unquote surface. There, of course, is no surface. We're falling at about 2 meters per second now. So that's definitely overkill. We knew that 2 parachutes would be overkill. But yeah, 2.6 meters per second is not very fast. And we will be destroyed from the pressure regardless. So we are now about 600 meters up. And our probe will be destroyed fairly soon. I believe it's negative 250 meters where it gets destroyed. So it's going to be a little awkward. Joule is a little different because it doesn't have a surface, of course. Every other planet in KSP has a surface. You can't really consider the sun to be a planet exactly. But the sun is very similar to Joule, is my understanding. Although getting a probe this deep in would be real interesting. We're about 300 meters up right now, and continuing to fall at 2.5 meters per second. Wonderful. 200 meters up. 150. And 100 meters up. We are about to cross through the quote-unquote surface. There is no surface. And there we go. We're now underneath the surface of Jool. We'll continue to fall until we're destroyed at 250 meters, and that'll be great. I like how this is red. I didn't actually know that. To indicate that it's negative, I guess. Cool. But yes, we will be destroyed here in just a moment. I'm going to take us out of Physics Warp, and we'll just tick on down. Kaboom. And there we go. It's going to call this a catastrophic failure, but I'm going to call it a catastrophic success. Yes, vessel is destroyed. Fantastic. So, it says it's a catastrophic failure. That is a catastrophic success, in fact. We're going to head back to the Space Center. We're going to check for some contracts here. I'm not too concerned about getting them done. We've got plenty of money for our last mission. But I want to check to see if there's anything about Elu. There probably isn't, to be honest. But we'll see what we've got. Science data from surface of Bop. Well, that's probably going to happen. If not, we can make it happen. What else do we want here? Explore Ike. Return to Kerbal from a flyby? That's not something we're going to do. Extract a bunch of units of ore from Moho. We lost one of our miners, but not the other. Okay, let's grab that, and we'll get these contracts done really quickly. I also want to exchange the science that we have for our... for some funds here. We'll go ahead and put that in. Fantastic. All of that science goes away, and we transfer that into funds. So we need to go to Moho here. Let's see here. Moho. We lost one of our drills, but I believe... Are we capable of mining at Moho? We're going to find out. Let's see what we've got. I think we only lost one drill. Or no, we lost both of them, but one is on the surface and we couldn't pick it up due to the gravity. So we actually can't do this, can we? Correct. That drill was up here somewhere, but we can't pick it up due to the gravity. So we actually can't do this contract. We'll have to get rid of it. Science data from the surface of Bop is easy enough. So let's go back to the Space Center here. We're going to cancel this contract. We'll have to pay a penalty. That's okay. I'm not concerned. It's mostly just paying back the advance. Yeah, I had forgotten that we lost both of those for our Moho landing. That landing was an awkward one. I blame SAS. If I had had MechJeb for that, it would have been much better, just for the smart ASS, but it's okay. So we're going to hop into here. We need to cancel this contract. So we do pay a small penalty there, but science data from the surface of Bop is easy enough. No problem whatsoever. I suppose we could have kept that contract and just let it time out, use it as a bit of a loan. We could have done that. So here's our Bop lander. And we're just going to transmit a little bit of science back, just to make sure that we get the contract done. I believe it would automatically finish. We probably have data that will automatically transfer back, but I'm just going to make sure that this finishes, and then we'll get started on our Elu colony. So with that being underway, we're going to have to think a bit about the power, and I think my conclusion there is yes, we're going to be low on power, but we've been low on power for all of these Jool outposts. I think we're just going to toss in a single RTG and call it a day. Okay, so let's go ahead and transmit this science. Assuming we have the power for that. And we may or may not. We did. We had the power. Fantastic. So there's that contract complete. And now we can, of course, head on back to the Space Center. And we'll get ready for our Elu launch. This will be our final colony of this series. And once the series is completed, we are going to, of course, start up a look at the early access of KSP2. I'm not sure what that will entail. I've kept myself deliberately blind on most of KSP2. So I don't know what they have implemented. It'll be in early access, so we'll see. For the time being, of course, we'll need to head into the VAB. And we're just going to toss an RTG into our not Tylo outpost. I'm going to base this, I think, on our dress outpost. The Tylo outpost required some bespoke landing, right? So we're going to go to the dress outpost here. That would be this guy. And this is what we're going to send. It should be fine. We're probably going to need a refueling mission. Probably. Yeah, I think we will. But we'll go ahead and make sure that we have crew in here. We're going to need to actually hire Kerbals. So we'll do that. I thought I had hired the Kerbals for all of the remaining missions, but apparently it was just the Jewel missions. No, I would have hired it for all of the remaining missions, but we did the Jewel the Jewel orbital station and had to make the new Tylo outpost. That's what it was. Okay, so we're going to hop into the very dark astronaut complex here. I'm not sure why it's so dark, but whatever. We're going to need an engineer and a scientist. Perfect. So we're going to be bringing Kimry and Bartnard. Looks good. So we'll hop back into the VAB here. And we'll load up that dress outpost. So this is going to be virtually the same exact thing, right? I'm going to save this as the Elu outpost. And we'll just save that. And we're going to put in an RTG in here, is the only difference. Just to make sure we have a trickle of power when we don't have our power online. Or, how much is an RTG again? There it is. Yeah, those are very expensive. We could, in theory, do, like, quad RTGs in there, but I don't know that we're going to do something like that. That is expensive. We can afford it. In terms of the positioning, I'd be more likely to put it, like, here. Okay, so that'll give us a trickle of power when our solar panels are not functioning, and we'll just help our power situation ever so slightly. Not very much, to be honest. So this is, I believe, going to require a refueling to get to Elu. It's not going to be, like, giga heavy the way that the Tylo outpost was, though. So this should be reasonably fine. We will go ahead and make sure that our correct pilots are in this, and let's get this at least into orbit this episode. I don't know that we're going to... I'm just thinking about the refueling process here. I mean... How much timing? Let's see. This video comes out on Tuesday. Indeed. I'm not sure if we'll do the refueling on camera or not for this one. I'll decide that probably going into next episode. Did I not hit the launch button? I intended to hit the launch button. Okay. We're going to go in here. And make sure that our Kerbals are correct. That's going to be step 1. And I'm pretty sure that I saved the RTGs. Yeah, I see the RTGs in there. Okay, so Kerbals are correct. Launch. I must have just misclicked here. Very strange. Okay, so there we go. I'm not sure if we're going to do the refueling for this mission on camera or not. We might, is the answer. We might. We could do it in a single launch, too, I think. Yeah, that should be theoretically possible. We would ditch a lot of the existing weight, and yeah, it should be reasonably fine. So it is currently quite dark, although it looks like we're about to have sunrise here. I'm just going to warp till sunrise so that we can see what's going on a little better. Oh, that's what it was. It was sunrise, but there was an eclipse right at the horizon. Fascinating. Okay, so we're going to throttle up, SAS on. Actually, we're going to... Are we going to use MechJeb here? I don't think we need it for this segment. We've been stable through here. But I guess we can go ahead and use Smart ASS. And we'll just put this onto... we want to put this onto ProGrade for right now. Actually, Kill Rod is fine for the moment. So throttle up, and off we go. I definitely prefer... Go ahead, go off. There we go. I definitely prefer the feel of this for this stage. Okay. So we need to get our gravity turn going. That's for sure. We've already kind of missed our timing on that, so I'm being fairly aggressive with it. Cool. And now we're just going to wait here for a bit. Okay, let's lock it to ProGrade. Whoa. Okay, surface velocity up, not ProGrade. Exciting. We're tumbling. Okay. That's very exciting indeed. Thanks, MechJeb. Very cool. Let's make our way back around to surface velocity up. Oh my. And let's put this on to Kill Rot. Can we recover this, is the question. That's a hard maybe. We'll find out. Are we tumbling again? We are tumbling again. I'm trying to recover it. Yeah, that's a no. Okay. That is some exciting stuff. So, I blame MechJeb for that, and myself for going into orbital prograde instead of surface velocity up. So, we need to go to surface velocity minus at this point. We need to activate all of these engines, hilariously enough, and try to recover this. This is not going to go well. This is definitely not going to be designed for this. This is not going to go well at all. This engine here should be deactivated, but I'm just going to start a burn here. Our thrust is quite offset. Okay, you know what? To save time, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to revert this back to launch. I want to get this thing into orbit this episode, right? So I'm going to revert this back to launch. We knew it costed about 700K for the crew and the mission itself. So I'm just going to remove like 800K via the cheat menu. And we're just going to save time that way. We're writing it off, calling it a loss. It was my own fault for clicking the wrong button in MechJeb. We're going to use SAS, I think. We can use this. Yeah, there's a lot of null reference exceptions apparently going on. That's exciting. But we are going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Perfect. Okay, so that'll do just fine. I'm going to use SAS for right now and throttle up, and off we go for this replacement launch with identical crew members that we've just hired new crew members and renamed them. That's definitely what's going on here. Okay, so let's bring this up, quote-unquote, properly this time. And let's not make massive mistakes, right? Because that's what fundamentally that was. Cool. All those null reference exceptions is probably what's going on with why the game's performance degrades over time. Most likely. So we're heading on up here. The question is, are we too aggressive on our gravity turn? And we'll find out. For the moment, it seems reasonably fine. Let's not go tumbling all over this time. That would be for the best. I think the single tumble was probably recoverable. Although at a fuel cost. We were planning to refuel anyway, so it's probably not that big of a deal. The second tumble, though, that was the one that really cemented it. When we were so far away from prograde when the detachment occurred, yeah, that wasn't going to go well. So we're punching our way up through this atmosphere, not quite as quickly as I'd like, but we need to detach these guys. Fantastic. And at this point, I'm going to switch over into orbital mode. We do have a decent amount of vertical speed here. So that's looking good. We could theoretically go to horizontal velocity up fairly soon. We're a little lower than I usually like to be based on the amount of atmospheric drag that we've got going on here, but it's probably fine. So let's go ahead and go to horizontal velocity up. There we go, and we'll just push up our horizontal velocity for the moment. I do want to try to correct our heading a bit to be a bit more equatorial. So I'm going to burn down here for a moment here. Cool. And we want this to be a fairly low orbit, so I'm probably going to target around 80 kilometers. Okay, we'll target about there. That's looking good. And are we going to push this up a little further? What's our current altitude? 51 kilometers? I'm going to push this up a little further to about 81. There we go. Okay. So here we will, of course, look to circularize and get ourselves into orbit properly. There we go. And then we'll get this refueling done and head off to Elu. There's that eclipse going on. Fantastic. We do want to be on the node at this point. And we can't quite extend our solar panels. Not that it would be all that helpful at this juncture, but we can't quite do it. The eclipse, of course, would be blocking our energy flow. We do have some RTGs, though, so we can look in here and see we're not actually draining power right now. Our RTGs are definitely doing the trick. So that's cool. Too bad that we lost 4 RTGs in the last launch. That was like 100k on its own, but it doesn't actually matter. We're going to extend this solar panel at this point, and now we can warp on forward. We are in space. That eclipse is still ongoing, and let's just circularize. It almost feels like we're, like, following the Umbra here. In fact, we might be. Which would be interesting, for sure. Okay. This is good enough for our orbit. Beautiful. We'll get this thing refueled, and next episode, we will head off to Elu. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Kentuin, James, Shadowwolf, MLohan80, Kentogan, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Spartan News, Unisol, Rogue Corvid, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.